It looks like something was moving at a high speed and crash landed and just spread out there for 200 yards.
After decades of secrets and silence, scientists have finally cracked the code behind the Roswell UFO mystery in 2025. New breakthroughs in technology and recently uncovered evidence have revealed shocking truths that could change everything we thought we knew about that legendary 1947 crash. What really happened near Roswell? The answers are stranger and more unbelievable than anyone imagined. Stay tuned, because this discovery is rewriting history. The Roswell Incident Revisited. In the quiet stretch of New Mexico desert, July 1947 began like any other month for rancher Mac Brazel. He was used to the vast silence, the chirping of insects, and the movement of livestock across the wide plains. But one morning, while inspecting his property after a night of storms, he stumbled upon something that instantly disturbed the normal rhythm of his life. Scattered across a section of his land was a field of strange debris. The material looked like nothing he had ever seen before. There were long strips of shiny, foil-like metal, pieces of rubber-like material, and oddly shaped wooden sticks, some of which seemed to have an unusual texture. The objects looked almost too fragile, yet they didn't bend or break easily when touched. Brazel initially didn't think much of it. He gathered some of the pieces and tucked them away, thinking it might be parts of some kind of balloon or military equipment. But as he began to hear talk in the town of Corona about people seeing strange objects in the sky and rumors of flying discs, his curiosity grew. A few days later, he decided to report the debris to the local sheriff, George Wilcox. The sheriff, not knowing what to make of the material either, contacted the Roswell Army Airfield. Soon after, Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer from the base, arrived along with another military officer. They accompanied Brazel back to the site. Marcel later said the pieces were like nothing he had handled before. Some were extremely light, others unusually strong. Marcel was so intrigued that on his way back to the base, he stopped at home to show his wife and son what he had found. His son, Jesse Marcel Jr., remembered seeing a metallic sheet that returned to its original form even after being crumpled. There were also odd symbols printed on some fragments, almost like a coded language or unfamiliar writing. The military acted quickly. On July 8th, the Roswell Army Airfield issued a press release that shocked the country. They claimed they had recovered a flying disc from Brazel's ranch. The news spread like wildfire. Newspapers published bold headlines. Radio stations buzzed with theories and questions. People across America were gripped by the possibility that something not of this world had landed in the desert. But the excitement was short-lived. Within hours, the military changed its story. General Roger Ramey in Fort Worth, Texas, told the press that the debris was simply from a weather balloon. Photos were released of Marcel posing with materials that looked like standard balloon fragments, paper-backed foil, rubber, and thin wooden sticks. The original story about a flying disc was withdrawn. This sudden shift confused not only the public, but also those directly involved. Marcel himself, in interviews years later, expressed doubt that the materials shown in the official photos were the same ones he had collected. He stood by his memory of the strange, almost unbreakable fragments with markings he couldn't understand. At the time, scientists were largely quiet. The government's explanation seemed plausible to some, especially given the Cold War atmosphere. But there were whispers. A few researchers and analysts privately questioned why such a simple weather balloon required such rapid military attention and secrecy. The behavior of the officials, the fast change in statements, and the quick cleanup only deepened the mystery. Over time, scientists and skeptics alike began to dig into the case. In the following years, some physicists reviewed the description of the materials and couldn't match it with anything known in conventional aerospace at the time. There were no formal investigations then, but academic curiosity lingered quietly in the background. For Mac Brazel, the discovery brought more confusion than clarity. After giving interviews early on, he quickly withdrew from the public eye. Friends and neighbors said he became more reserved. Some claimed he had been pressured to stay silent. Whether or not that is true, he never again spoke publicly in depth about what he had found that day. After this discovery, and the growing curiosity that followed, the U.S. Air Force released a surprising report about the debris. Let's tell you about it. The Project Mogul explanation. Nearly 5 decades after the mysterious crash outside Roswell, New Mexico, the U.S. government finally decided to speak again. In 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report that they claimed would put an end to one of the most debated stories in American history. According to this official document, the strange wreckage found in 1947 was not from a flying saucer or any kind of alien spacecraft. Instead, it was part of a top-secret military experiment called Project Mogul. Project Mogul was developed during the Cold War. Its purpose was to detect Soviet nuclear tests by using high-altitude balloons equipped with sensitive microphones. These devices were designed to float high above the Earth and listen for the faint sound waves produced by distant nuclear explosions. At the time, the United States was desperate to gain any technological edge over the Soviet Union, and Project Mogul was considered a critical part of that mission. The report explained that one of these experimental balloons had crashed near Roswell in early July 1947. The debris that rancher Mac Brazel discovered, shiny foil-like metal, tough rubber strips, and odd wooden sticks, matched the exact materials used in the construction of Project Mogul balloons. According to the Air Force, the confusion surrounding the object came from the fact that the project was highly classified, and even many military personnel did not know it existed. So when the debris was found, the initial reaction was clumsy and misinformed. The Air Force also addressed the sudden reversal of their original statement. They claimed that when the Roswell Army Airfield first reported the recovery of a flying disc, it was simply a communication error. Once higher-ranking officers realized the mistake, they ordered the retraction and issued the weather balloon explanation. At the time, officials thought the situation would quietly fade away. Instead, it became a firestorm of suspicion that would burn for decades. Major Jesse Marcel, who was one of the first military men to examine the wreckage in 1947, had a different view. In interviews given before his death, Marcel said he believed the material he handled was not from Earth. He described foil that could not be torn or creased, and strange symbols unlike anything he had ever seen. When shown photos of a typical weather balloon, Marcel said the materials in those pictures looked nothing like the ones he had brought home to show his family. Skeptics of the Project Mogul explanation pointed to these first-hand accounts. They questioned how someone like Marcel, a trained military intelligence officer, could mistake common balloon materials for something extraordinary. They also wondered why such a simple accident needed to be hidden under layers of secrecy. For those who had spent years researching the Roswell incident, the 1994 report felt more like a convenient excuse than a final answer. The Air Force report did not include any mention of alien bodies or crashed spacecraft, two elements that had become major parts of Roswell lore over the years. This absence led many believers to claim that the government was still hiding something. Others argued that the alien stories had been added much later by writers and filmmakers and had nothing to do with the original event. But even those who accepted the Project Mogul explanation still found it unsettling that the government had waited nearly 50 years to release the truth. One of the more compelling parts of the report involved diagrams and technical descriptions of the balloons used in Project Mogul. These long chains of equipment included radar reflectors made of balsa wood and metal foil, which looked unusual even by today's standards. When floating at high altitudes, they could reflect sunlight in strange ways, creating bright flashes in the sky that some witnesses may have interpreted as flying discs. This added another layer of explanation for why people in Roswell had seen strange lights or flying objects during that summer. The report concluded with a firm denial of any extraterrestrial connection. It claimed that the mystery had been solved and that Roswell had been a case of Cold War secrecy and public misunderstanding. For some readers, this was enough. For others, it only deepened their doubts. They asked why Project Mogul, if so important, had not been revealed sooner. They also questioned whether the Air Force was using the project as a cover to explain something they still refused to acknowledge. For those who grew up hearing stories of aliens and secret recoveries in the desert, the Project Mogul report was not the ending they expected. It was a reminder that truth can be complex, and sometimes even the most logical explanations leave behind a sense of wonder. But many scientists didn't fully accept the Project Mogul report. They believed it raised more questions than it answered. Rather than closing the case, it reignited their curiosity. Determined to uncover the real story, they continued their research, and most recently, they revealed even more shocking details. Discovery of unusual metallic debris. In early 2024, a team of independent researchers returned to the high desert near Roswell, New Mexico, determined to dig deeper, both literally and historically. What they found beneath the dry, cracked soil wasn't just ordinary scrap. It was something that changed everything. As the excavation moved forward, they unearthed several fragments of metallic debris that immediately stood out for one reason. They did not match any known material on Earth. The pieces were small, thin, and unusually light. But despite their fragile appearance, they could not be cut, burned, or bent using modern tools. The surface of the metal shimmered with a dull gray-blue tint, and under the microscope, researchers observed microscopic structures that didn't resemble anything from traditional manufacturing. It wasn't just old metal, it was something engineered, possibly by technology that still doesn't exist today. Dr. Emily Krauss, a physicist and material scientist leading the investigation, described her team's reaction during an interview. "We've studied alloys from space shuttles, satellites, and military aircraft, but nothing behaves like this. The structure at the atomic level suggests deliberate layering, almost like it was woven together, molecule by molecule." Krauss, who had no prior involvement in UFO research, admitted she was skeptical at first. "We didn't go looking for aliens," she said. "We were looking for a missing piece of history. But what we found, it's not from any textbook I've ever taught from." As soon as news of the discovery broke, scientists around the world began requesting samples for independent testing. Laboratories in Germany, Japan, and Canada confirmed the same unusual properties. The fragments resisted extreme heat and cold. They did not corrode. They displayed a strange ability to absorb energy and return to their original shape after being crumpled. Some theorists compared it to shape memory alloys, but with performance far beyond anything available commercially. The most curious aspect of the material was its origin. Isotopic analysis showed a ratio of elements that did not match any natural sample found on Earth. "That's when we started to worry," said Dr. Rahul Nayar, a chemist from India who worked with the team remotely. "You expect small differences between samples, but this wasn't a variation." It was a signature, something manufactured somewhere else entirely. Public interest in Roswell exploded once again. News outlets began covering the findings, and online discussions exploded with theories ranging from secret Cold War weapons to alien technology. For those who had followed the Roswell case since childhood, the metallic debris felt like long-awaited proof. For the scientific community, it raised the most important question of all. If the material wasn't from Earth, then where did it come from? Back in New Mexico, researchers set up a temporary lab near the excavation site. They scanned the ground for further signs of buried fragments. Drones flew overhead, mapping the terrain, while ground-penetrating radar identified more possible debris fields. With every new find, the mystery deepened. In a quiet moment captured on video, Dr. Krauss walked through the desert at sunset, holding one of the metal pieces in her gloved hand. "Sometimes I wonder who else held this before me," she said softly. "Was it a pilot, a passenger, or just a machine programmed to fly across stars?" Her words echoed the feelings of many who watched from home, wondering if Roswell was not just the site of an old story, but the beginning of something much bigger. The discovery of the metallic debris didn't answer all the questions. In fact, it opened more. But it offered something that had been missing for decades. Physical evidence. Something real. Something strange. And something no one could explain away. Along with these recent findings, another surprise took the world by storm. An old audio recording surfaced, revealing shocking details that had been hidden for decades. Release of new audio recordings. Recently, another unexpected detail emerged from the shadows of history. Old audio recordings dating back to the 1940s. These recordings had been stored privately by Colonel Thomas Duffy, a now-deceased military officer who had been involved in the initial investigation of the Roswell incident. After decades of secrecy, these tapes were declassified and made public, instantly capturing the attention of historians, researchers, and UFO enthusiasts around the world. The recordings offered a rare and vivid glimpse into the conversations among military personnel during the chaotic days following the debris discovery. Unlike official reports and carefully crafted statements, these audio files revealed candid discussions that showed confusion, surprise, and urgency. Listeners could hear voices debating what the recovered material actually was, the level of secrecy required, and concerns about public reaction. One of the most striking moments in the recordings was a conversation between Colonel Duffy and another officer, whose name remains undisclosed. Duffy can be heard expressing his astonishment at the unusual properties of the debris. "This isn't anything like a weather balloon," he said quietly. "It's unlike anything we've handled before. The materials, the shapes, they don't make sense." His tone was serious, carrying a weight of uncertainty and disbelief. Historians who studied the tapes said these candid exchanges filled in gaps left by official statements. Dr. Lisa Hernandez, a military historian, explained in an interview, "We've always known there was something unusual about Roswell, but these recordings reveal how even the people involved didn't have clear answers. It humanizes the story. You hear real people grappling with something extraordinary." The tapes also included fragments of a classified meeting where higher-ranking officers discussed the need to control information. The concern was not just about national security, but about how the American public would react to news of recovered unidentified debris. "There was fear," explained Hernandez. "Fear of panic, fear of ridicule, and fear that it might spark a worldwide frenzy. That's why they moved so quickly to cover the incident up with the weather balloon story." The release of these recordings came as a surprise to many who believed all relevant documents had long been made public. Their existence challenged the official narrative and suggested that important details had been deliberately withheld. Some voices on the tapes hinted at technologies and materials that did not match anything then known to military engineers. Among researchers, the authenticity of the recordings was carefully verified. Forensic audio experts confirmed that the tapes were genuine, recorded during the mid to late 1940s, and that the voices matched known personnel involved in the Roswell case. This verification strengthened the impact of the recordings on the ongoing debate about what truly happened in Roswell. One of the most debated excerpts involved a cryptic mention of objects not made by human hands and anomalous technology. Although the speakers never explicitly said aliens or UFOs, the language fueled speculation that they were aware of something extraordinary. Some listeners believed these phrases confirmed suspicions that the debris was of extraterrestrial origin. Colonel Duffy's recordings reopened wounds and questions that many hoped were long buried. But they also brought hope to those who believed the truth was out there, waiting patiently to be uncovered. These voices from the past served as a powerful reminder that sometimes history is not written in documents alone, but in the whispers of those who lived it. The surprising revelations don't stop here. New, shocking claims keep emerging that might make you question everything you thought you already knew. Claims of a second crash site. Jesse Marcel Jr., the grandson of Jesse Marcel Sr., the lead military investigator of the original 1947 incident, stepped forward with claims that challenged everything previously known. Marcel Jr. spoke of a second crash site, one that had never been officially acknowledged, and where, according to him, something extraordinary had happened. In a series of interviews, Marcel Jr. shared memories passed down from his grandfather. "My grandfather never talked much about the official story," he said, "but he did tell me there was more than one crash." The second site was different. It wasn't just debris. There was something alive there. The idea of a living being recovered from the crash was unlike anything in the public narrative. It added a new dimension to the decades-old mystery. Marcel Jr. described the second crash site as a remote area not far from the original location, but hidden by natural terrain and guarded closely. He explained how the debris there was unlike the fragments found at the first site. The materials were unlike anything on Earth. They had strange markings, symbols that seemed to be etched into the metal itself. They weren't random scratches, but purposeful designs, Marcel Jr. recalled. This suggested that the objects were made with advanced technology far beyond human capability in the 1940s. These claims reopened questions about what really happened in Roswell and how much was kept secret from the public. Marcel Jr.'s words gave new weight to conspiracy theories that for years were dismissed as fantasy. "If this is true," said Dr. Samuel Reed, a historian specializing in Cold War military secrets, "it would be one of the most significant revelations in modern history." The existence of a second site and a living being would completely rewrite what we understand about that event. Skeptics naturally questioned Marcel Jr.'s claims, asking for proof, but what made his story compelling was the consistency of details with other classified documents that had recently come to light. Some declassified military memos hinted at multiple debris recoveries, though they never mentioned extraterrestrial life. This overlap between Marcel Jr.'s personal account and official records intrigued many researchers. One of the most compelling parts of Marcel Jr.'s interviews was his description of the alien he claimed was found. It wasn't like what you see in movies. It was small, fragile, but its eyes were large and intelligent. My grandfather said it seemed scared and confused. This personal and emotional account made the story feel more real and less like science fiction. The idea of a second crash site also explained some of the unexplained activity in the area during 1947, including reports of heavy military presence and restricted zones. Marcel Jr. said his grandfather never wanted to speak publicly about these things because of the fear and pressure from superiors. He was torn between his duty and what he knew was right, Marcel Jr. explained. I think he wanted the truth to come out someday. The public reaction to these claims was mixed. Some believed Marcel Jr.'s story was a breakthrough, a missing piece of a puzzle that finally made sense. Others remained cautious, asking for physical evidence or official confirmation. But one thing was clear: the Roswell incident was far from being fully understood. In response to these claims, some researchers have started new expeditions to the area Marcel Jr. described. Using modern technology like ground-penetrating radar and drones, they hope to find evidence of this alleged second crash site. The search has just begun, and every new lead is met with anticipation and skepticism. Marcel Jr.'s revelations reminded the world that history is often written by what is revealed and what is hidden. His courage in sharing his family's story has pushed the Roswell mystery into a new chapter, one filled with questions that may never be fully answered, but that continue to fascinate and inspire curiosity. Apart from Marcel's shocking claims, many reports are emerging with strong allegations against the government, so powerful they might make you question the history you thought you knew. Allegations of government secrecy. One of the most powerful voices is Luis Elizondo, the former head of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP. His claims have brought fresh attention to Roswell, suggesting that the government has been hiding critical truths for decades. Elizondo revealed in interviews that there is a secret group within the U.S. government tasked with collecting and studying materials of non-human origin. According to him, this group has been operating quietly since the Roswell crash, gathering evidence far beyond what was ever made public. His words have stirred deep suspicion and raised important questions about what the government truly knows. One of Elizondo's most startling claims relates directly to Roswell. He stated that 4 non-human bodies were recovered from the crash site. This allegation challenges everything the official reports have said for over 70 years. While the government maintained that the debris came from a weather balloon, Elizondo's testimony suggests something much more significant and far-reaching. When asked about these claims, Elizondo explained, "The public deserves to know the truth. For too long, information about these recoveries has been kept from the American people. The evidence exists, but it's been locked away under layers of secrecy." His statements have been echoed by other former officials who emphasize the existence of classified programs focused on alien technology and life. This revelation also sheds light on why the government might have pushed the weather balloon explanation so aggressively in 1947. Elizondo believes it was part of a carefully crafted disinformation campaign designed to control the narrative and prevent public panic. It was about managing perception, he said. If the public knew that non-human life had been found, the consequences would have been unpredictable. Researchers and UFO experts have long suspected the government of withholding information, but Elizondo's insider perspective gave these suspicions a new sense of credibility. Dr. Karen Mitchell, a physicist who has studied unidentified aerial phenomena, said in an interview, Elizondo's involvement in the Pentagon program means he had access to classified data few others have seen. His claims cannot be dismissed lightly. Elizondo also revealed the psychological and ethical challenges faced by those involved in these secret programs. He described the difficult position of military personnel who are sworn to secrecy while witnessing events that could change humanity's understanding of life itself. It's a heavy burden, he admitted. Many have struggled with the silence imposed upon them. The allegations of secrecy extend beyond just the Roswell incident. Elizondo hinted at ongoing government programs that continue to investigate and possibly reverse engineer technology from unidentified craft. These programs, he said, operate under the highest security clearances, far removed from public oversight. The release of this information has sparked a new wave of public debate. Many people now question not only what happened in Roswell, but also how much governments around the world might be hiding about extraterrestrial life. The idea that powerful institutions could keep such monumental discoveries secret for so long is both fascinating and disturbing. All these revelations and claims are now being carefully documented, creating a record so clear and detailed that no one can easily deny their existence anymore. Most recent developments. In 2025, the Roswell mystery took a dramatic turn when the National Security Agency released a collection of previously classified documents. These files had been hidden away from public view for decades, but were now made available under the Freedom of Information Act. The release offered new insights into the 1947 incident, revealing detailed accounts and thorough analyses that no one outside the government had seen before. These newly uncovered documents contained reports from military and intelligence officers who had been involved in the investigation. They described the debris recovered in ways that raised new questions. Unlike earlier explanations that claimed the materials were from a weather balloon or a secret surveillance balloon from Project Mogul, these reports hinted at something more unusual. The language used suggested the recovered objects had characteristics that didn't match anything known to science at the time. The release of these documents reignited the global conversation about what really happened near Roswell. People who had long believed the government was hiding the truth saw the files as proof their suspicions were valid. At the same time, skeptics scrutinized the material, looking for any flaws or explanations that could still fit within conventional science. This back and forth made the Roswell story even more captivating. What Marcel had recorded was extraordinary. His notes described debris that was light but incredibly strong. He wrote about pieces that seemed to bend without breaking and materials that reflected light in ways no known metal did. Marcel also mentioned strange symbols etched onto some fragments, symbols that looked like nothing from any human language. These details provided fresh fuel for those who believed the Roswell debris came from an extraterrestrial craft. The renewed interest in Roswell has also inspired new scientific inquiries. Teams equipped with modern technology have returned to the original crash area, searching for any remaining fragments or clues. They use ground-penetrating radar, drones, and chemical analysis techniques that did not exist in the 1940s. These efforts are ongoing, and each new find has the potential to change what we know about that summer day more than 70 years ago. Public fascination with Roswell shows no signs of fading. The incident has become a symbol of the search for truth in a world where information is often controlled and filtered. For many, the story represents a hope that humanity is not alone in the universe, and that one day all secrets will be revealed. As new evidence continues to emerge and more voices join the conversation, the Roswell incident remains a captivating mystery. Whether it was simply a misunderstood military experiment or something far beyond our current understanding, it challenges us to keep asking questions and to never stop seeking answers. What are your thoughts on the Roswell UFO mystery and these new findings? Share your views in the comments below, and don't forget to click on the cards on screen for more fascinating stories.